Take me to work. Alright, today I'm going to continue on with my Claude project, talking about different products that we offer. Today's exciting topic is replacement windows. So, when you deal with replacement windows, you're doing two different things. You can do a full replacement of the window. Well, you start out with, you can do new construction windows, which is basically the house is framed. You come in there, you put a window in, it has a nailing flange, it goes into the opening, you level it, you nail the nailing flange, you tape it off, and you're done. So it's super simple. Usually with new construction, the carpenters just throw the windows in. So we don't really do that much new construction window work, but we actually don't do that much new construction work at all. We try to stay in the remodeling realm when we're dealing with homeowners. But when you talk about a remodeling project or renovation or retro install, you can do it two different ways. Number one, you can do a full replacement, which means you're going to take the existing window out, the entire unit, frame, sashes, the whole thing. Sashes always come out. The frame is the thing that's the difference. You take the frame out, you're going down to the bare studs, and then you basically put the new window into the opening. Now, some advantages to this are that if the existing window had, maybe I should explain both. So that's one way of doing it, taking out the entire unit, frame and all, and then putting a new window in. The other way to do it is called a pocket replacement. And what you do is you take the sashes out. Let's say you have an existing wood window. You take the sashes out, and then you use the existing frame as kind of where the insert's going to go in. So you measure that existing frame, and the window goes in. And then you seal around that, and then you put stops on the inside, which are small pieces of trim that hide the gap, and then you would cap the outside of the window. So two ways of doing it. There's benefits to each one, and there's cons to each, like anything. With the full replacement, what happens if your existing window, if that frame is leaking? See, a lot of people think, oh, I've got airflow coming through my window, and they think it has to do with the sashes, but sometimes it actually has to do with the frame. If whoever installed that window initially didn't do a good job insulating around the frame and the studs, the framing of the house, and the frame of the window, then you're going to get air infiltration. What happens is a full replacement, you're going to take that out, you're going to put it back in, you're going to seal around that, and it should be good. Pocket replacement goes inside the existing frame. So what happens with that existing frame, if it's already leaking, it's still going to leak after you do the window. So that's one issue that it does come up, and you have to be cognizant of. Another benefit of full replacement is that you're not losing any glass space. When you do a pocket replacement, again, you're going into the existing frame with the frame of a new window and sashes, so you actually can shrink that opening down in your glass space by an inch, 2 inches. It just depends on the window that you're putting in there, because each one kind of has different specs. A lot of people don't like that, especially if they already have small windows and now they're going to shrink their windows down even more. It can be an issue. Full replacement, obviously you're going back in with a full size window, so you could in theory lose a little bit of glass space if the new window has a thicker frame and thicker sash frames, but in most cases it's negligible and you don't even notice it. So that's another difference between the two installs. And then I guess the third is the mess and time it takes. I mean, a full replacement is going to take more time, obviously, because you're doing more work. You will have to, in most cases, replace the interior trim of the house. So you're basically doing trim carpentry on the inside of the house. Just because that existing trim is connected to the frame of the existing window. And most of the time, as that trim gets older, it becomes more brittle, and as you're taking the window out, it's very hard to do that, to remove that interior trim and save it. It usually breaks in some way, cracks. So it's better just to replace it. So if you've got a historic home with trim on the inside that you just love and don't want to get rid of, or it just adds to the house because of the history of it, you're probably going to want to lean towards a pocket replacement and not touch that trim at all. And the other difference is the mess. I mean, a full replacement is going to take longer. There's going to be a bigger mess to it because there's going to be more tear out and more construction, and then trimming the inside of the windows. Where a pocket replacement is a lot quicker, less carpentry, less tear out, so it's quicker. And then number 4 difference is price. I mean, a full replacement is going to cost more. You do have to cover the cost of the interior trim. There's more labor involved. It's just a more intensive process. So those are the 4 benefits or differences between a pocket replacement and a full insert window. With that being said, we kind of go either way. Some companies will only do full replacement because they feel that's the right way to do it, and then some companies only do inserts because they don't want to deal with the construction of a full replacement. So we're of the mind, we're going to let the homeowner decide. We're going to give you the option of which way you want to go. We'll explain to you the pros and cons of each way, and then you can make the decision, and we can do either one just as expertly as the other. Now, as far as window lines that we carry, we are an elite contractor for Andersen Windows, which is kind of an interesting story of how we got here. When I was younger and my dad would build houses, he would always swear by Pella windows. He always put Pella windows. No matter what kind of house it was, he put the Pella windows in because he wanted that yellow sticker in the window. So when he sold it, he mostly built spec houses, which are just basically houses that you build and then you put them on the market. You don't have a customer from the beginning who's telling you what they want. He built a spec house, sold them on the market. So he wanted those yellow stickers, those Pella windows in the houses. So Pella, and I knew nothing about windows back then, nothing at all. And then so once we started innovative and we kind of started expanding and we added windows, we started with vinyl windows. And the vinyl window industry is interesting because there are hundreds of vinyl window manufacturers all over the country and locally in the Chicagoland area that you can choose from. And there was a time when there was a company called Republic Windows, and like everyone in Chicago was using them. They had every supplier sold them. They had a big factory in Chicago, and I'm not sure what exactly happened. They had some labor problems or something, or they sold, or one of the partners. Whole big hubbub. They ended up closing down. But here's a company that was everywhere, and they shut down. And that happens so often in the vinyl window industry. It's not even funny, because we started out. We were selling a product called, what the heck were we selling? I know there was a time when we sold those Republic windows. There was a time when we sold a company called Vista Windows, who ended up going out of business. we sold a product. I don't think we tried to sell Symington, which is a big company, but that company's been sold so many times, I don't even know who owns it anymore. We had a big deal with Costco where we were selling windows through Costco, but they told us what windows to sell, and we were selling a product called Milgard windows, which is big on the east or west coast. It had expanded into the Midwest. They were the recommended windows for Costco. We were selling them to customers outside of the Costco program. We love the window. What was great about them is they would warranty that window, the manufacturer. So if anything happened with the window, they would send out a tech. They would call 1-800-MILGARD, and they would schedule a tech from Milgard to go out there and fix that window. And so, you know, through the Costco program, and then Milgard decided that they weren't going to sell windows in the Midwest anymore. So they moved out of the Midwest. And then so CertainTeed came in, and that's who Costco wanted us to use. And Milgard was big in Menards too. They were sold to Menards. And then CertainTeed decided they were going to pull out of this market for whatever reason. And so that window went away, and then the Costco program ended up ending for a number of different reasons, but you know, it might have been because CertainTeed pulled out and they just didn't want to find another window manufacturer. I don't know. So I had read this ad in this trade publication, window trade publication, about a window that was stronger than vinyl and blah, blah, blah. It had all these great attributes, super energy efficient. And it ended up being like this composite window. It was a PVC type material, almost like the decking material that they use, but the frame and the sash frames of these windows were made out of that material. And they were a lot stronger, and they were beefier, and they looked good, and the company that was selling them knew how to sell windows. They had a program of how to present the window, how to show the differences in the window, how to, you know, basically, you know, inform people that there was a better choice. So that was a whole long story that we went through with that window company. They got sold, then they shut off the dealers, or they were struggling. I think what happened was they were struggling for a while, and they just didn't have the money for production, so they stretched their production out to like 12 weeks. This was kind of in that pre-COVID era. And then they bought a door manufacturer, and I don't know if that was going well for them, and just all this stuff happened, and then they started jacking the prices way up to try to slow down their production. So all these things went on, and so I was like, well, we're gonna look for another company. So we found another company that sold a similar product, this Polish company on the East Coast. We started selling their windows, and kind of forgot about the other company. And we're selling the window, and they were good windows. I put them in one of the houses that we owned, and for whatever reason, that company decided they weren't going to ship to a bunch of dealers in Chicago. They were only going to ship to one dealer on the south side of Chicago because it was closer to Pennsylvania where they were from. And they told us, oh, yeah, we're going to stop selling you direct, but you can buy it through this dealer. And so we contacted that dealer, and they're like, no, we're not going to sell to you, because we were their competitor. So it was a weird situation. So we lost that product altogether. And so then the company that we originally were with the composite windows, they ended up getting sold to a bigger company. We kind of got back in with them, and then something happened where they stopped making that particular window. So it was a whole long story. That's a story in itself, talking about that whole situation with that company and what happened with them. But anyway, so we moved on, And then we ended up finding a vinyl window company that is made locally in Chicago. It's been around since the 60s. It's called Midway Windows. Good, solid product. They have a good entry-level window that's reasonably priced, and then they have like an upgraded one where you can get a lot of different options like wood grains and different hardware options and all the shapes and sizes and everything that you need for a full window program. Bays, bows, all that stuff. And we've been with them for probably five or 6 years. Their quality is consistent. They have a good window. If we ever have a problem, they're on it right away. They do something interesting. They've got a company, but then their product reps are a third-party company that represents them. So it's pretty interesting. But those guys do a nice job. Both of our reps are named Jeff for whatever reason. Well, probably because their parents named them that. But so they do a good job. We like the window. It's a quality window. I remember back in the day when we were, trying to find vinyl windows, and reps would come in and they would start explaining why their window was better. I would just glaze over because it was like everybody said the same thing. The most important thing with the vinyl window is the consistency of the manufacturer, the longevity of the company that manufactures it, because you want to be around and have parts and be able to service the product later, and the installer. If it's installed wrong, there's going to be problems. So this company's been good to us so far. It could change, you never know, but we've been using them for a bunch of years. Then what we wanted to do was we wanted to get into the higher end windows, so we started selling Marvin windows. And we really liked Marvin windows. They're made of fiberglass, they're strong, they're good looking, they've got a good name. But the problem with Marvin windows was their customer service. It was almost like they were doing you a favor, letting you sell their windows. They were almost like an arrogance of the company. They're made up in Minnesota. There's like a whole town the whole town is basically the Marvin factory. And, that's kind of interesting. We never actually got up there to visit it, but they had invited us, and then the whole COVID thing happened, and then we got sidetracked. But, so Marvin, good product, good reputation, all those things. We did sell quite a few Marvin windows. But that's just the problem with the customer service to the dealers. So I don't know how we got involved with Andersen. I've had a number of houses in the past that we have bought and lived in that had Andersen windows, and they were always decent windows. They worked. If something went wrong with them, you could always get parts or repair them. Our last house, tons of windows in that house, all Andersen windows. Our current house, so many windows, so many ridiculous amounts of windows, and they're all Andersens, and they work great. And for whatever reason, I was always resistant about Andersen. I was like, we don't want to sell Andersen, blah blah blah. They sell them at Home Depot, blah blah blah. And then there's Renewal by Andersen, which is owned by Andersen, which is like their retail, branch that sells directly to the homeowners with their special Andersen Renewal window. But, so we got involved in it, and I'm not sure exactly how we started selling Andersen windows, but it's actually been pretty good. They have a very nice array of types of windows, from their 100 series, which is very competitive with vinyl, except it uses, instead of vinyl, has Fibrex, which is like a vinyl with a wood ingrained into the vinyl, which makes it twice as strong, and it's a nice looking window. Then they've got a builder grade window at the 200 series. They've got a 400 series, which is like where you start your remodeling window. And that's the #1 sold wood window in the world, is their 400 series. They've got a couple different options with that. They've got the tilt and wash, which is kind of a more economical double window. And then they've also got what's called the Woodwright, which is like a little bit higher end, nicer wood product. But the 400 series is a solid window. And then above that, you've got the E series, which was actually Andersen bought a company called Eagle a few years ago. And they have, I think their factory is in Iowa. They make a really high quality wood window with lots of options, lots of wood species you can choose from. The exterior is a wood clad or a aluminum clad that you get in a ton of colors. And the E has been one of our top selling products, to be honest with you. Now they're changing the program. They're going to take it away from E. They're going to call it a 500 series. They're taking some options out, making it more of like a standardized window. So that's kind of unfortunate, but that's what they're going to do. And then above the E series is called the A series, which is like their flagship high-end, window. And they're going to change the A series to the 600 series. So they'll have 100, 200, 400, 500, and 600 series windows all the way up. So a broad spectrum. I mean, the A series, you can basically do almost anything with it. Any type of application. I mean, it's a very high-end, high-quality window. And so we've really gotten into their program. We're, like I said, an elite contractor. We sell a ton of Andersen windows. We're the #1 Andersen contractor in McHenry County, Illinois. And we actually go further than that, to be honest with you. And we've sent sales guys up to Minnesota to visit their factory and go through install training. They had an owners conference that my son Skylar went to, who does sales for us, which I think was a great thing for him because he learned a lot and he got to network with some other dealers. And it's just been really good for us. So our philosophy now is we've got the Midway vinyl, which is a high quality vinyl window, and then we've got the whole array of Andersen. And honestly, we kind of lead in with the Andersen, and if somebody wants the vinyl, we could do the vinyl too. So exciting. We're doing a lot of windows. It's really becoming a huge part of our business. And now siding and windows are the two things that we're focusing on. Kind of looking away from roofing. We still do the storm stuff. We will quote roofs. But people have to know that we're not that low. If you're looking for a low, dirty down price on a roof, it's not going to be us, because we're going to build a quality roof, either asphalt or a synthetic, or even we do some metal roofing. But the specialty roofing is where we would be after siding, after windows, and honestly after our gutter products, which I'll talk about in the next video. But so that's our story of the windows. We've been selling windows since 2007. So almost 20 years now. And the one secret we're selling windows, and why most roofers and other companies don't want to touch them, is because you have to account for a lot of mistakes. We have a whole section of our warehouse full of mismeasured windows, because you have the sales rep measures it, then that information goes to production. That production sends it to an installer who goes out and tech measures the windows. And for whatever reason, there's always a little bit of miscommunication between sales rep and the installer who measures, and then, you know, installers aren't perfect, they make mistakes. You know, usually they're going out and measuring at night after they've worked all day, and so there's a lot of mistakes, there's a lot of mismeasures. So, and I think that's what chases people away from the window business, is because, you know, you sell 10 windows and 1 or 2 of them are messed up, that screws the whole job up. So we've developed processes, we're always improving, always trying to get better, and, you know, I think we're a pretty good window company now, to be honest with you, and we're only getting better every day. So that's all I've got on windows. I will see you tomorrow, or I'm going to talk about gutters.